Great to see you. I saw about 150 registrants, but I know everybody kind of waits to...
Here's to being in the right industry at just the right time. The demand for business analysts is projected to grow at a very impressive 14%.
That's when
the fastest way to differentiate. Enjoy the top.
There we go. Sure, that was a bit frightening. Okay, so we all sorted, right? Everyone's... You can see my screen.
Yep, all good.
We have gone live. I'm just checking if anyone's coming in. I'm just going to have to check that just in the first 5 minutes. So we'll do an introduction, I suppose, first to give me a bit of time to let people into the room as well. But okay, so super excited for those who've missed our initial conversation. I think that this is genuinely a game changer, and for business architects, you know, when you see what I mean, you'll realize that this is huge. So there's a lot going on. So welcome to the webinar. We're going to look at business architecture. Now, there's so many components of business architecture, as I'm sure you know. For those who've never done architecture, you're going to have to go and do a little bit of research, because I'm not going to go into the basics of business architecture. I'm basically going to go into how to build certain things. So welcome to join, but please recognize that we kind of skipping a few steps. It's at intermediate level, I would say. So just a little bit about me so that you know, my name's Deirdre Caren. I am the founder of Agora Insights. I don't know if it's 6 or 7 years now. I think it's 6. It could be longer. We have 9,000 learners, over 9,000 learners from just over 90 countries. So very proud of that, you know, that has occurred. And we have some really nice big clients that are looking at their architecture or their business analysis. So some pretty big names, which there's a lot more than that. So very happy about being in the industry. And I think for the role of business analyst and business architect, you're both knowledge workers. So both roles are very knowledge worker associated. And so it's a great, having AI in this particular field, you know, it's less tooling and it's more knowledge base, is great. So let's get started. We're only 3 minutes in. I don't know why my button's not working. There we go. Finally. Okay, so we are going to cover understanding. I always do this first because I think it's important. So we're going to spend about 10 minutes, if that, looking at your knowledge base, looking at the structure of the knowledge base, the business architecture. Then we're going to go straight into building capabilities using AI. And then from those capabilities, we are going to go into information concepts. So hopefully everyone knows information concepts. I've got a bit of a bonus that I'll share afterwards, but I'll keep that to myself right now. And then we've got the Hashan Kanri. I am hoping that I will be able to cover everything in this session. I actually think it will go a little bit over. But, you know, that's entirely up to you if you want to manage the session or just stick to the hour. So we may end up having to do Q&A afterwards. I think just because of the volume of work that I'm taking you through, you know, capabilities and information concepts are not short topics. However, we can shorten it. So as I mentioned, we're going to go through the wisdom wheel first. Now, the wisdom wheel, I always say we need to understand this. So yesterday, for those who were at the yesterday session around business analysis, you will find that this is completely different, but we still have the same principles that we start off with. So the pyramid model AI is basically going to request that you have created some kind of structure. So for instance, as BARCs, we are basically building knowledge bases, right? So that's the term, knowledge base. And we are gathering information and we're gathering data in order to kind of create blueprints for our organization. So that's really our purpose. And so when we look at AI, the way AI can help us is by providing information from massive sources of data, right? So now you don't have to trundle through heaps of information and stuff that you have. And really for architecture, it's about building, a solid base, a solid knowledge base, and also really understanding the blueprints of the organization. So what you need to understand with AI, though, and this is what I expressed yesterday as well, with AI, if you don't create a good framework, a good kind of understanding what it needs to look for, you're going to get a whole bunch of junk. And that's really not going to help, your efforts in trying to use AI for architecture. So be aware that this particular side, so when you're looking at information and data, you have to create context here, because you're not going to get this. You're not going to be able to analyze and figure out what your knowledge base actually is if you're not framing it correctly. So it's almost like having some kind of constraint on your questions and your data and your background and so forth. So when we look at business architecture, we are looking at understanding, what are our pillars? In other words, what is our framework? So we talk about capabilities, we talk about value streams, we talk about organization and information. And so today we'll be looking at AI for capabilities and information. And then we talk about the extended the extended blueprints, which would be strategy, initiatives, policies, projects, stakeholders, metrics. And so these help us understand more information about the organization. And remember, every organization, I think would be unique because there's different needs, different customers, etc. So when we build in a knowledge base, we want to provide the organization with the right information, to make decisions for their organization. And so when we look at our business architecture framework, we create blueprints. So these might be a combination of one of the models, or it could be just a model like a capability or an information concept. And then we create scenarios. So we won't be doing scenarios today. We're just going to be constructing those two kind of blueprints and how you would do that. But in certain circumstances, you might have an initiative, you might have a problem that the business is wanting to solve, you might have, just want to understand your business in context. Has it moved back? Okay. So all of these factors, although we won't cover them today, this is what consists of a knowledge base. So this is the information that we've obtained, which is specific to the organization. It's like building a blueprint for a house. And we can play with some ideas based on that blueprint. And so I want to be very clear, we're not doing change management today. You can do it with architecture in your strategy to execution stages. But right now, today, we're just looking at our particular blueprints, these two, just from a time perspective. Okay, so for those who haven't seen capabilities before, and I really hope you have, this is just a loose example of what we call tiering. So you have different tiers, and then so strategy, customer facing and supporting, and then you'd have your capabilities here. And now I spot right now a spelling mistake. But anyway, so I think you get the idea of when you have a capability, what we do as an organization is pretty standard. We do have different layers. So as you go deeper into your capabilities, you actually have things like building them down into level 2s. And this is going to be quite important when building AI, because when you build AI, you have to start with a framework, but then you have to build bottom up, which is almost the opposite of what most organizations do. And obviously you can critique me on that statement. I'm not going to argue with, different ways of doing it, but in my testing, you really have to kind of start a level lower to really get the right information from AI. And we'll see if that works or not. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put up your hand. That's quite helpful. All right, next. So let's start with your chat. Okay, so we're going to start off with, so any questions up to now? Anybody have before we start? I was just saying that yesterday, ChatGPT crashed. It's had so many people sign in that it couldn't do it. So fortunately, I had recorded all of this beforehand just for speed and ease. So I didn't have to worry about going live and it not working. It's working at the moment. But that was, when I say crashed, it was just overwhelmed by the amount of information that was being shared. So yeah. All right. I'm going to start by playing. So we're going to look at creating capabilities. Now, as I said, you have to frame everything. So you have to create some kind of constraints so that it knows what to look for, obviously. Otherwise, it's just going to give you junk. It'll always answer you, but it won't answer you as... Sorry, I just want to see what this question is. This is from Zach. The framework for business architecture, is this yours or is it a general industry one? It's the BizBook, but I've redesigned it. So if you go with the BizBook design, it is, they do it the other way around. They do the capabilities in the middle, and then they have these kind of things around, but I look at these as pillars. So that's why it might look slightly different. And we also break this down in our training to specific module understanding. So, but yes, it is a standard, just designed a little bit differently. All right, so you have to have a context. You have to understand, what you want AI to do for you. It will always give you an answer, right? Because that's its job. So having bad questions, you're going to get answers still, but then you might find that these answers are not actually fulfilling the purpose that you wanted. So what I do is, and I'm using Agora today just because it's the easiest option for me, but you can do this for your company too. So what I did was, let me just pause for a minute. I started with saying, what are the business architecture capabilities? So those who've worked with capabilities, and just to remind everybody, today's session is for those who are BArchs, who understand these concepts. Those who are new, you're going to have to go and look this up because we're working at intermediate level here. And so when we look at business architecture capabilities, if you look at the BizBook, for instance, there are reference models. So I've taken 3 reference models and I've joined them all together. And I have used that as a means of creating this. So when you create this, you would ask a question, which of these business capabilities? Now, if you look at what is this thing called? Just can't remember. I was using it yesterday all the time. If you look at that, you have to create the context, right? So you have to have absolutes. So when you build this, you can see we have inverted commas because that means it has to look at this. And then I've taken my vision. I've looked at the So the vision, the mission, and the philosophy. And I've asked it to build capabilities. And so it's now building capabilities for me. Yay. And you can see it aligns the capability. So those who understand how to define a capability, you would say the ability to do something. And so you can see AI saying may and things like that. You would just change the language. It's the same thing, really. So all you need to do to start, and how exciting is this, is your organization's vision, mission, philosophy, and any other things that the organization is about, what they believe in. So now we're building our capabilities based on the reference model that we have in BizBook. And like I said, that's available. I can see a couple of familiar names here. So Thomasina, I'm sure you'll know exactly what I'm referring to here. Okay. So we have the capabilities. Now I'm asking the next question. So we're building all the time on our things. Now, besides what's in the reference model of BizBook, I'm asking, are there any other business architecture? Please use those terms. Always say business architecture, because it pulls out other data if you don't do that, especially it could be just be confused with capabilities in terms of people being able to do something. So my question is, are there other capabilities that would be appropriate for Agora Insights? And it adds these capabilities that actually aren't in the reference models that I used. So I thought this was great, obviously. Now, when we spoke about, the wisdom and, oh, good, Thomasina, it is really nice, isn't it? And I hope you all geeks like me, because I found this amazing. And I said yesterday in the meeting, how many minutes has this been? 7 minutes, and this is what's been built. And look how much has been built. So when you're building this, if you don't have a solid framework to build, you're going to get information, but it's not going to be specific to your organization. So now I actually have a whole bunch of capabilities. I have got specific capabilities. We still need to know if they're level 1 or lower, but I've got specific capabilities to my organization, what my organization needs, not the generic capabilities that come through. So now I'm asking it to create a table, because where am I going to store this information? And please do this, because if you don't store the information, like I did on a couple of occasions and the thing crashed, I had to start all over again. So I'm asking it to create a table, that is structured in a particular way. And as you can see, I have the ID. So I'm kind of following loosely some of the rules that you have in your BABA or your BizBook. So we look at the capability, the description, we look at the unique ID. You can see I had to go and look in the spreadsheet to add a couple of those. So we look at the tier. And I do like how pleasant AI is. It always speaks nicely. So there's your table. I hope you're liking what you see so far. So we've got quite a few capabilities. Now, one thing I would recommend to everybody is that when you look at your capabilities, you need to still go through these and go, is this actually a level 1 or is this maybe a lower level? Now, many businesses have different ways of viewing it. Some people like to view it all at one level. So they're not looking at trying to go into too many layers because of complexity and things like that, and keeping the detail very, very simple and very light. But on, depending on kind of how you're going to be modeling and what you think would be the most appropriate, you'd potentially take this down quite a notch and just go, actually, we just want maybe 13 or up 10 on each line as high level. So this went on and on quite a bit. You'll see things like meeting management and marketing management and those type of things that are helpful. But yeah, I would trim this down a bit. And remember, every time you start trimming and refining, then you create an instruction and you add that information into it. So you say, based on this, and then it'll go from here. So my next question, and you can see it didn't finish. Now, be aware it does have its limitations as to how much, and this is why you have to break that information down into very specific areas. So I asked the question, why there's so many operational tiers and no support tiers? Because if you looked at our previous model, we had the 3 tiers, which was a strategic, operational, and supportive. And so then it explains to me that I need to do it myself, which I thought fair enough. So you clearly have to be a business architect, right, to be able to do this. So it's now telling me it's difficult to make a judgment on these things, but it made some suggestions. And it does that if it doesn't have definitive answers. It gives you examples or responds to you in a specific way. So I think that was the end of this one. Yeah. So basically that was off the bat, high-level capability specific to my organization. And like I said, test this with your organization, take the vision, mission, philosophy, any of those other things into, your ChatGPT and see what you come up with. All right, so next we're now going to look at creating level 2 capabilities. Remember at the beginning I said to you, one of the big challenges, is this playing? Okay. One of the big challenges is with AI, you almost have to do things bottom up. And I'll show you why. It'll happen towards the end. You'll see why I say that. So now I'm giving the capabilities that are appropriate to me. I'm not choosing that second batch. I just chose the first batch and then included the vision, mission, etc. And what have I done here? Just want to make sure I'm not repeating myself. Ask additional capabilities. Sorry, wait 1 minute. Okay, we did that already, right? Yeah, okay. Am I still on the same screen? All right, let's go into the next one. So here we've got the training, etc. So are there any capabilities? That was what we did previously. Now we go on to our next. Now I'm choosing just a particular capability that I want to look at. So this is the tier 2. I hope I haven't missed a step now. Okay, so I've asked to include these 2 capabilities, remember? Okay, so remember it didn't cover everything at the top, the tier 1. It had the initial one, which I captured, but then I also wanted to include this one, which was the second one. And the reason I wanted to do that is because it has training course management. And I thought, well, that's probably the most easy one for me to manage. So it's creating a table including the training area, which is the one we'll focus on as we go through level 2s. So while it's building, let's just speed up a little bit. As you can see, there's heaps. And again, you want to filter some of these things. Okay, because it hit a wall here on 45, I now had to add and continue the list based on the ones that I wanted, which was particularly the training. So now it didn't create a table, it just created this, which is totally fine because you can still use that in a table. So that was all right. But I really just wanted to get that training one going because I wanted to test how you would go down to the next level. So there we go, training course management. Okay, great. So I'm copying that one. And we're going to create a level 2 for this one. I'm ignoring the tier because, it's not relevant for the question that I'm asking. And it might distract the AI. Thanks, Corey. I just saw your message now. Okay, so now I'm given the instruction, create level 2 capabilities for this particular one. And it's like, sure. Now, this is really great because now you're getting into much more detail. So remember, one of the capabilities that were included was training management, and that was what AI suggested, which makes a lot of sense for my organization. So we've got curriculum management, learning resource management, course development, course delivery management, training needs assessments, certification management. There's a few more. Instructor management. This is fantastic. So I know that I have this particular type of organization, but this actually was very real for me. And I thought, wow, that's really good. So now I wanted to understand, well, what roles would be involved in that particular capability. So we're at a level 2 capability now. So we've chosen some of the first, level 1 capabilities. And then we're at a level 2 capability right now. So let me just go into the next. So which stakeholders would be involved in this? All right, so you can see, because I haven't specifically, kind of asked it just to answer the question, it gives you suggestions. It tells you who might be involved. So this is really great because it's now giving you the stakeholder mapping, but what you should actually do, rather than doing what I asked it to do, is to actually have a stakeholder map where you've got that entire organization, and then that stakeholder map is actually, that's actually aligning with what it is actually, what the roles actually are, rather than not the roles at all. Okay, so really good insights into who might be the sponsor or the owner of that particular capability. So great, and remember that's level 2 capability. I see why this doesn't move on. Now let's go into information mapping. So information mapping is when we are actually looking for more information than what the capability itself provides. And remember, capabilities are abstract concepts. So how would you input the stakeholder map? It is a huge thing. Okay, so the question that Corey's asking, Corinne, is, don't have my glasses on, that for huge organizations, how would you input a stakeholder map? You would first need to do the stakeholder map, and then you would need to maybe go and choose one capability and ask which one of these would be appropriate. Now, hopefully, you're not going to be beyond the limit of approximately 1,000 words, which go into the search. So you can put approximately 1,000 words. You can go up to 1,500 words, but depending on what that, how big your organization is, you might want to break it down into business units or groups and put a business unit in there for that initial search. So I know it's not perfect. You could, of course, ask AI, what they believe, and then cross-map it with those kind of business maps as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, good. All right, so when we look at capabilities, those who've studied your BizBook, you'll know that a capability is an abstract concept. It's an idea so that we understand the design of the organization. Just like when you build in a house, you have a kind of a design initially of how you're going to build this. And then your information concept really provides the details around that particular capability. And the purpose is so that you can understand all that would be involved. And this is really where you're building your information architecture and so forth. So when we go, so now we've created our level 2, and we are now looking at creating information concepts based on the one that I chose, which was the training capability. So that training capability is now in, let's play this out. So my question now is, so I'll copy that. Create information concepts. As you can see there, I added business architecture information concepts, right? Again, if you're working as a BArch, make sure that you're using the right language. Everything about AI is going to be about the language because it interprets your language. So I've chosen a particular capability, curriculum management. And as you can see, I've put those dots there to tell it what it's looking at. So to create that framework. And remember, your inverted commas are around your absolutes. So now it's given me great information concepts, right? So we've got a course catalog, we've got learning objectives, we've got course outline. So these are all the information concepts that would be associated with your business architecture. So, and super fast, right? 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So taking a level 2 capability is a key here, because you're getting, and even a level 3 would probably be even better with your information, and then rolling that up, into the higher levels rather than trying to roll it down. But you have to start with that framework to do that. So here you can see an initial set of information concepts. We're not finished yet, right? But it's giving us things that we would do. So we're looking at learner analytics, we're looking at all of these things. So now I'm going to look at what measures we associate with that. So if we've got particular things that we'd be doing, how are we measuring it? No, I don't agree with you, Zach, but I'll come back to that at the end. So Zach, question was, basically we'll always still have a job. Actually, I think you'll have more of a job now. And again, I questioned all of these things as I was testing, but each to their own, I suppose. Now you can see for each things, like let's say a course catalog, the number of courses offered, these would be the measure. So now you have an information concepts with measures. Think of change projects. Think of the things that you would be doing in certain stages and what those change projects might be. So let's let it finish its job. It's doing a good job. Okay, so that's the curriculum management capability. And now we're going to go into the next slide. I realize that this thing wants to double click everything. Now, what if you want to break it down like this? How would you do that? Remember, when we talk about information concepts, we want to understand the different relationships. We want to know how these all come together. So when we look at information concepts, we want to create these tables, and we want to be able to use different parts of information in a particular way. So my next thing that I'm going to look at is the information table. So create a table. Let's just go a little bit further. And again, you can see I'm putting information table because above we've got the capabilities. So I need to give it a very clear instruction of what to expect. And then we create the columns. And I do sometimes have spelling mistakes. So information concept. So just as the table that I showed you. And again, depending on what you're using, you could be using several tools, or you could even just be using basic Excel. And so for all my training, I use basic things to not constrain anybody. But yes, you'd look at using a table that looks very simple or similar to what Babok offers. Okay, so there's the related information concept. Now watch this one, because this is something we want to know how all of these different information concepts link together. How do they come together? So it's quite a piece of work that we want to understand. And just watch, because we don't give it the right instruction now, there's additional work that's required. We just fast forward this based on level 2 capability, and then I've copied that, and then I play. Okay, so here's a table that's been built on your information concepts. So even if you don't fully understand information concepts, putting in the instruction is going to help you tremendously. So very, very good option to have here. So here you got at Agora, we've got learning objectives, we've got course content, there's a description. And now it's using these particular things, which are like, what kind of information concept is this? Actually, that's really close to librarianship to define. It's not quite what you do in architecture, but you can use it that way as well. And then it tells you all of the different things that are linked to that. So when you're doing learning paths, these are all the relationships between the two. And then it goes into published, etc. So it's great. You can now see all the information concepts per information concept, and it's per capability as well. It's really, really amazing stuff. And it's a lot of information at hand, super fast. Look how this has changed as well. When it looked at asset management around decomposition and those type of things, again, keep an eye out and say, okay, well, do we do destruction of our assets or not? Or is it all virtual? How does that work? So I think this is the last one. So here we have a great information concept table. As you can see, it is giving us a lot of information that we need. Our table is linked. We've got all of the relationships between the different information that we have already. And so we're building that further. But that's not all. All right, so What about attributes, right? Information concepts need attributes. So geeks out there, I'm showing you. Do we get slides? There's no slides. There are videos though. So we would create attributes. I'm going to look at data architecture, and this goes to your question around, will VRX be needed? And then we're going to look at UML modeling. All of this can be done using AI. So your attributes are really around building additional information sources that you would have on your information concept. So we've already broken it down into the table. So we understand the table that we've got above, but I'm wanting additional attributes. So as you can see, and I love the way it says, so when I'm doing a course catalog, I need the course ID, the title, the description, the audience, the objectives, outline, learning, duration, prerequisites. This is fantastic because this isn't just the information concept linked to the capability. I now have all of this information that I can now run, clearly in this particular section. So now I'm actually creating things that we need. Of course, as an architect, you're going to have to go through this and go, is this correct? Does this diagram make sense? Does it all, come together and work? You're going to have to do quite a bit of things to get this. Let me just speed this up a little bit because it's very diligent and gives me a lot. Now my question was, create data architecture. So I've got my information, I've got my capability, I've got my level 2 capability, I've got my tables, I've got my information concepts, I've then got my information attributes, and now I'm creating data architecture based on that. So great decomposition going on. So there you've got things that you would need to include, like your IDs, description, etc. And foreign key, remember that's your link. So if you are just using Excel, you can do this just like that. And I'm not suggesting Excel, but the foreign key is around your relationship. So the information that it will have to pass from one to the other. So pretty amazing. Okay, and then you would have, so it's basically taken all of my information concepts and broken it down into what your data architecture would be doing. It's quite diligent too. It really gets a lot done. Let me just speed this up. Okay, so that's the data architecture, but what's next? What can I do even more after it's given me a lecture? So now I'm going to ask it, let me just move this forward. Can you show me a relationship table? So now it's just going to give me those foreign keys or unique keys or whatever you term them as, and it's going to link the relationship. So what would be the actual field that you're linking? So those are doing SQL and all of those kind of things, great. Or just hand it to those that are the data architects, because now you've created the entire organization and you can go, this is what we need to put into our systems. So now you don't have to worry that the systems don't match the business objectives. Because remember, the entire thing we built was from the vision, mission, and philosophy. You can add more, of course, but all of this has been built from that. Which is remarkable. Well, at least I think so. If you agree, at least gives me a thumbs up. All right, so we've got all these foreign keys. Now, the next thing that I'm going to ask it is, can this be converted, that's what I meant, not covered, to a UML diagram? And look at that. Beautiful UML diagram. Thanks for the thumbs up. That is now being created with the unique IDs linking. So you've now got this diagram. So now you can literally go to, your data architects or your solution architects and go, this is what the information concepts look like. This is the link. And for those who have been on the course, you'll know that there's a link between data architecture and business architecture. And now you can feed that data architecture or application that also needs to be linked to your capabilities, but your data actually links really well to your information concepts. And then you've got your AI building those tables for you and making them look amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. Absolutely love this tool, and I do encourage everyone to use it. So if you understand business architecture, the framework that it has created, you can build your entire organization using AI. I'm not saying you shouldn't analyze, so please don't think you can just do this and hand it over. You still have to, think in terms of the business. Okay, let me speed this up a little bit. So I did ask her to redo this because it kind of got stuck here. So again, you can see that it needs to have enough space to build. So it apologized to me for not finishing the job, and then it carried on building. And so that's where we ended up far more finished and polished UML diagram. So any word that you use as a BARC, BA, it doesn't matter what your role in, you can apply it here. So you can give it the instruction. Any logical diagram, it cannot draw necessarily, but it can create code. So you can actually convert this to things like HTTP, not HTTP, sorry, SQL and various other codes, and you can ask it to build the code for you. So amazing stuff. I told it great job. So I gave it kudos. All right. Next. Oops. All right. Now, anyone who's ever asked about business objects, here's your answer. It is amazing. So, business objects can be quite obscure and abstract in their concept. And every time you say there's a capability, it needs to be linked to a business architecture or capability map. So business object. So what I've now asked it to do, and this is a specific instruction, and again, you must look at this. So based on the chat, which means it's now going to go back through everything that we've done, list the business objects that occur in this. And this is why you also need to see how long your chat is, because some you will get a lot and some you won't. So at the very beginning, I explained to you that unless you build this bottom up, you're going to actually lack information. So you have to create the framework first, which is the basic capabilities. You've got to approve them, and you've got to do your vision, mission, etc. And so these are business objects now, things that come out of your capabilities, things that occur in your day-to-day business. So now you've got align the business objects with the capabilities. So I've got that. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. It's very friendly, as you can see. So now it's creating a table for me, which I think is great. And keeps going. Now, this is where I want to pause. Look at this training one. So remember, we took the capability, the level 2 capability, and we built out information concepts. We built out all of the information that we had, so everything kind of above. And it's now created business objects based on that particular capability. So as you can see, it's now gone back and mapped everything into that. None of the others, they've got very generic kind of business objects. None of those actually align. So very important bottom-up build, right? Matters a lot. All right, so next, I was super excited about this. So I copied this and said, okay, the next step, give me a minute. So what would the business objects be used for in the training course? This is really where you starting to think strategically. So you're starting to think, okay, well, what am I going to do with this information? So based on the chat, the following business objectives would be relevant. And then what would I use the business objects for? All right, so now it's given me a list of things I can do, right? And so it's going, develop training and course plans, various activities where you can actually do stuff. I'm going to fast forward for a little bit. My next question is, what would the process be? And I've copied this now. So what can we do with this? So let's go to the next. So I've said now create a process for this. So remember, we're running right through the business capabilities, information concepts, etc. We're building all of this. So now it's built a process diagram for me, which I'm like, thank you. That was super quick. And so when I go and look at a particular capability, I can start looking at the processes that might be associated with that capability or link it to an information concept also. But then I thought, maybe we should consider our business architecture perspective. So specific things in terms of this. Speed this up. Okay. Can you provide a process flow? And there it's giving you the actual process flow. So it's given me the list of things, but now it's given you the actual steps. So whether you use BPMN or any kind of processes, it's great. But I still wanted value streams, right? But this is nice because I've got start to finish, and I've created the value streams. The process. And it gives me an instruction around the process. And for those who've designed processes before, you know that you have these inputs and outputs where you have to define what success looks like at the end of the process, depending on the methodologies that you're using. Now I wanted to take this process and convert this to a value stream to see what the difference is. And well, also, as you can see, I use the term business architecture because remember we have lean as well that are called value streams. So I use specifically business architecture in this case. So can you convert that and include inputs and exit criteria? So now look at this, your value stream, manage course content, structure, and objectives. So it's now building out. Remember, it can only give you text, the steps, your exit criteria, and then it builds this amazing description of the value stream. So it can do multiple things. We've got a few minutes left. So while this is building, I do have the Hoshin Kanri, which I want to show you can actually build in AI as well, for those who know what Hoshin Kanri is, and now that I'm pronouncing it correctly. But are there any questions you have? Because this was just the start, as you can see. And the question that I was asked, that business architects are basically going to lose their role. What do you think about that question now that you've seen this? If anyone wants to add comments or talk directly, that would be great. Do you think business architects? Yeah, Thomasina.
I was just going to say, at my work at the moment, we've just gone through this huge process to build our capability map, and we've partnered with a consultancy firm to expedite that because of the other transformation work that we're doing, and it's taken ages. And it's enjoyable as a business architect, but after you've done the first 20 or so and got them in your modeling tool, it becomes very laborious. So this is insanely exciting because I think for me the joy of working with capabilities is getting to that point where everybody understands what they are and then being able to cross map them and do different models and stuff and for your stakeholders. And so this is, I think, was probably going to get us to that point a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the point where we're really adding the value a lot faster.
Yeah, I know. I think it's going to be fantastic. Clearly organizations can now you can also bring in case studies. So I haven't gone through that today because we are really limited, as I mentioned in the beginning, but you can also compare your business with previous case studies using AI and actually see if you've got alignment in that. And remember, you can basically compare any organization tongue in cheek. You won't get everything that you need based on vision, mission, and purpose of the organization. So, yeah, very interesting. And you can do things like business model canvas, all of that. So you can build entire architecture for an organization using AI as a trained business architect. You have to be trained, right? Because otherwise you're just going to get junk in, junk out. Yes, Steve, I agree with you. It is a game changer. And if you're not a business architect yet, you should become one, because you can now take this information and speed it all up for the organization. And we haven't even got into initiatives and changes and managing information. This is just basic stuff in less than an hour. All right, so I'm going to quickly show Hashan Khanri, because for those who know Hashan Khanri, it's a real challenging one, but it's one of the ones we use a lot in business architecture. And, but it kind of, to get it working can be quite challenging. So I just use the case that I use with business analysis at this stage, which is around a change happening in the organization. Because remember, today I'm only talking about an organization, that being Agora, looking at their capabilities down through their data structures. So that flow, functional decomposition all the way down. So with this one, I wanted to check if there's a change initiative and they really are focusing on how they're going to do a change. Will it create a Hashan Khanri for me? So for that, I gave a background statement and I gave the problem statement and the various stakeholders. And looky there, Hashan Khanri for you. Obviously, it can only create it in these types of formats. It cannot kind of do the Excel version of it. But there you go, Hashan Khanri for you. You can do, business model canvases, everything that is listed in your BizBook, AI can do with you. And that's why I say do with you, because it cannot give you the information you want if you're not analyzing and building that information, building that business for it. Those who were with me yesterday, whether or not you were, there's a direct correlation with change management, as in change initiatives, and which is what BAs do, which is around building the background, not the strategy, but taking the requirements into the detail. And every single step that we do as business architects, we can inform those requirements processes. There is a cross mapping, as you know, in both the course and in BizBook. So do have a look at the link between that, because you can eventually even go into requirements, into that level of detail. I don't advise it for architects because sometimes you get caught boots in the ground and then you forget about architecture. But again, it depends. If you're in a small business, you kind of have to be boots on the ground all the time. But if you're in a really large organization, it's about being able to get a bird's eye view and see if the initiative is going in the right direction, which is really what you want in architecture. Okay. As a French speaker, I find it awesome that, gives me all the information in, okay. So it does it in French as well. Okay, great. That's amazing. So I made it exactly on time. Haven't really left it open for questions, but if you do have any questions, now's a great time. Thanks. So if you want to ask anything else, that's fine. We will have a recording eventually. Oh, it can translate as well. Awesome. So there is a recording that will be sent out, as you know. That's pretty standard with our things, which you can find via the website. Yeah. Karim, huge increase in productivity. Yes. And you're certainly not going to lose your job. I think you're going to quickly be called in to do this stuff because you understand the models, how they all work. Yeah. Yeah, Thomasina, change your organization quick. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm probably going to end the session now, but I do hope that you have found the insight. There's a lot more to come, obviously, because we only covered 2 very, very, single level layers, but happy architecting, everybody. And I'm just going to stop the share. And okay. See ya all.